So, my third vlog for the day, after procrastinating most of the day, and I've done 2 vlogs on that, on procrastinating and being productive while moving. So I'm in Portugal, and my partner left on Monday, and last week we went to look at our house knowing that we'd bought it. And when I say house, it's a little bit of a ruin, not completely horrible. The walls are still standing, they need a little bit of repair, but we need roofs, doors and windows, floors, and all the services, including what's called a fossa, which is a septic tank, because that wasn't part of it. But what we do have are some wonderful old trees, a raised garden, which the kitchen will come out onto, kitchen living area, and we're going to be pruning it in such a way that it's almost like a garden room, like a conservatory out of trees and leaves. So we're really looking forward to that. And then across the lane we've got an orchard with a well and a tank that might well, if in these hot days, we had a few really hot days where it would be nice to have a bit of a paddling pool, a bit of a dip pool. And the trees, they'll need a lot of pruning, but we're looking forward to that. So what I wanted to talk about was how we bought the house and how I tackled it to make sure we got what we wanted, because we got what we wanted. We would have preferred it cheaper, but it came in at a really good price. So, coming to Portugal, first of all, we'd never been here. We decided we were moving to Portugal, one, because of Brexit. We had to decide quickly so that I could come over here and get residency before Brexit, because then we were entitled to live here. My partner will come over, and as my family, he will be entitled to get residency as well. So when he retires, he will move over. So I have now needed to spend 6 months of the year here, but until I came over to get my residency in August, just before Brexit, so that was 2020, I think, 2020, I hadn't been here. But I'd read up about it, I'd looked at the economy, I'd looked at the style of living, and we'd said, you know what, it's close to the UK, but you've got a lot of what you get in Africa, the warmth, the easier way of life, but the safety and security is fabulous here. You've got great internet, you've got water, you've got electricity, but it's a simple way of life if you choose. Now, if you go down to the Algarve, it's not a simple way of life. You're living a Western lifestyle with everything that opens and shuts, and it's going to cost you money. But you can live where we've chosen to live, in central Portugal. You can buy houses for about 20,000-30,000, do them up. If you can afford to buy one that's already done up, fabulous, good place to start, because along with Africa, you're going to struggle to find certain things. And because Portugal's become popular, you're struggling to find builders, that sort of thing. So if you can afford to buy a house that's complete, do that. We can't, so we've gone with a house that we'll get half of it done, and my partner will do the other half when he moves here. The first thing I did was, knowing our budget was our primary issue, I went to a site called idealista.pt, and you can put in your price range and you just look through each area. So I had a list of what I've called the provinces, and I went through and I found 2 provinces that had houses in our price range. One was in the Castelo Branco area, which is closer to Spain but also central Portugal, and one a little closer to the coast in a town called Figueira dos Vinhos. Now, anyone who's Portuguese, apologize for my pronunciation now. Funnily enough, those were 2 areas that I'd already seen by being part of a group called South Africans Helping South Africans in Portugal, that these were 2 areas that were popular. There's a beautiful area just down south of the central area, which is very much like the Orange Free State in South Africa, wide open spaces, not so hilly, because central Portugal is quite hilly. And it's just beautiful. I mean, if you're wanting a farm life and peacefulness, go there. If you're wanting just a little more, Castelo Branco is a good sized city, and there's a few cities there. Figueira dos Vinhos is a town, and we've bought a house just outside it, 1 kilometer, so walking distance for the market, the shops, whatever we need, or cycling. And in fact, they're just finishing off a cycle path from 1/4 of a kilometer from our house. I'll be able to cycle up quite easily. So Figueira dos Vinhos, there's a little hamlet called, and again my pronunciation is shocking, Chás de Cima. It's spelled chaos, which we think is quite funny. And we've bought an old farmhouse, and I spoke to one of our neighbours who's exceedingly friendly, but she speaks not a word of English, but we communicate on Google Translate or DeepL, I've found better. And she phoned somebody. And it seems that the house was built in about 1831, which is quite interesting because my family left the UK in 1820 and went off to Africa. And here we are back again in Europe, living in a house from 1831. It's an old farmhouse. We're going to call it the Yellowstone House. And it is a small house, but it's like typical Portuguese houses. You've got two levels. The bottom level was storerooms, workrooms, animal rooms. And then the top level was where you lived. And it had a veranda outside it, which was where you managed to get into all the rooms. So the veranda needs to be reinstated. We'll have two workrooms underneath, and we'll live upstairs on the one side. It's an L shape. So on the veranda itself, we'll have a large living kitchen area, and our bathroom ensuite, our bedroom and ensuite bathroom will be there. Then the other part of the L was probably the big old kitchen. We're going to make that into a guest room, but go downstairs in a small storeroom to an outside area which was roofed and is now seen by the municipality, the camera, as being part of the building. So we're going to convert that into a living kitchen area with a very small garden, and that'll be fabulous. Now that is what the builder's going to complete for us. And I'll be staying in that while I come to and from Portugal, which will be great. It'll be lovely to be settled, to have my own things around me, to not have to bring luggage all the time. So looking forward to that. So what were the principles I used to choose this house that suits us so well? One, I looked at Idealista and looked for my price range. Narrowed it down to the two areas as I mentioned. Then I set up by email, and remember this was during COVID, set up via email to go and visit places. Now a lot of them fell by the wayside because they were not interested. So there's a cat outside who thinks it should be inside. White socks, come on. It's a cat who was sick, and I've been feeding it tablets stuck in chicken. So it is now my latest best friend, and comes for a walk with me when I take the dog. Even in the rain, it comes on the walk. So I then tried to set up appointments, and some of them self-negated themselves. They just never pitched, or they didn't answer, or they got confused by the appointments. We didn't see the house. In Castelo Branco, the ones that I saw in our price range were shocking. Some were storerooms that they're trying to sell as houses. And one of the important things to remember in Portugal, make sure you have a house listed now as habitable. In other words, it's for humans. Otherwise, you've got something called rustica. And rustica it's farmland. They are never going to make it into a home for you. And if they do, it's going to take about 2 years. And if you've got 2 years to pay rent somewhere else, fabulous for you, but it's going to take a long time and you're not guaranteed. There's a house down the road here. I'm in another place near central Portugal, about 45 minutes from Figueira dos Vinhos, and people renovated a house. It's fabulous, beautifully done. I mean, really done in the good style, the old stone walls, etc. But there's no water. And the water's not going to be put on there because they're too far outside of town and they don't have their own water. So be careful what you buy in terms of saying, is it habitable? In other words, legally habitable. And secondly, one of the things I put at the top of my list, must have its own water. Coming from Africa, I didn't particularly want land. Many UK people come over saying, oh, I want land, I want land. It's hard work. Land in this country, you have to do it yourself. And when I go for a walk in the morning, I see the 81, 82-year-old woman out tending their vegetable garden. And they're wonderful, it's doable. But we were not brought up to do that. And we're going to fail. So, water, land as much as you want, no more, no less, must be legally habitable. Then I started looking at it. I wanted old trees. I didn't want to be making a garden planting trees, and we got that. So make sure you have land with old trees. Now, keep in mind that in Portugal, the law says that when somebody dies, the land goes to all the family. They can't leave it to the eldest son or to one son. They have to leave it to everybody, which means land is often fragmented because then they divide it up, or the neighbor is allowed to make an offer first for a bit of land. So parcels of land are swapped around. People across the road from us have swapped a bit of land. They got more land than they wanted, but the land right next to their house they don't own. So they swapped a strip of land next to their house with a bit of land further away next to the guy who owned that bit of land. So he's delighted to get more land for his olive trees. And my neighbors across the road now have somewhere to park the car, and they are allowed to do a window in their house onto that bit of land without getting permission from the neighbors because they own the bit of land. So it's quite common apparently to see windows in Portugal which may not open out, and you had to get permission. So make sure that the land is appropriate. Now the land we've got is a yard into which we can drive onto our workshops. We've got a raised garden, which is a nice size, plenty to sit out in, do a fountain maybe, have a little run around. Dougal's going to love it. And then across a lane, we've got a bigger piece of land, but still, it's an orchard. It's not bigger than that, but it's got a well and a shed. So that was all we needed. But even that's hard work. When we went to see it, we couldn't even get in because there was so much grass and so on. By law, that land should have been cleared last month because of the fire problem in Portugal. It should have been cleared. It wasn't. So do not get land because it's work unless you really, really want to and you're going to farm and research your farming. Farming is definitely possible in Portugal. They do a lot of farming. You see wonderful olive groves, orange groves. You see beautiful things going on here, but it's work. Make sure that that's what you want. If you're retiring to Portugal, make sure you're buying what you want. Gentleman farming? I don't think so. All right, so we got the old trees. We were within a municipality, so we can get the services, but we're far out enough to have our slightly more country, villagey life. But I can walk into town. There's a market on a Saturday, which was important to me. There's a medical center. There's a dentist. There are 3 pharmacies. There are 2 supermarkets. And I could drive to other ones. Now, the one thing I didn't get was a train line. There is a bus, though, that goes through twice a day to Coimbra and to Lisbon. So I can just catch that bus twice a day either way, because either Coimbra or Lisbon flies out. There's not Coimbra, Porto. So, but from Coimbra I can catch a train to Porto. From Lisbon I can catch a plane out. So very convenient, really, because I'm saying I'm going to get old here. I don't want to be driving around, and they also drive on the wrong side of the road here, and they're a little less careful about their driving. Plus, you've got incredibly windy roads, and they've got used to that windy roads, and they cut corners when they actually can't see around the corner, which is hair-raising for us. But I'm surprised how few accidents there are. So, the bottom line with buying a house in Portugal, set your principles. Mine was price, and I searched idealista.pt for that. The second one was what I wanted. Water, old trees, near transport, some privacy. I wanted the old house. And what happened was we went to Figueira dos Vinhos, and the agent brought his office manager with him who speaks some English and showed us a few houses. And based on what we said, look, there's no transport here. It's too far out. It's possible to do it, but it's too much of a run. And she emailed me a day or two later saying, look, have a look at this house. And we went back because we were all the way in Castelo Branco, drove over, had a look at it. We liked it. We negotiated on price. It took about a year for the house sale to come through, but we got what we wanted. Avoid the big chains of agents. They are there for the money, while the small agencies are much better about trying to meet your requirements. If you are on the South Africans Helping South African page, look at the list of people on the services file. And there you will find. That's where I found my lawyer, for instance. And got it sorted. So now I'm on the path of, we've opened a bank with Millennium, an account with Millennium, which we managed to do online. We didn't have to go in. And we did it from the UK. We just did the final thing last night to get all our codes. And the cards will be sent to us. And we just have to say, okay, we've got the cards. And then we're all set up. We've asked for water from the municipality. We're trying to decide on which electricity supply we're going to go with. I need to do that. The fossa, I need to email the engineer because we did have a chat about that. And she was going to put in a request for us with the council so that we could get a septic tank put in, and then they'll come and suck it out twice a year, which apparently is enough. The builder's really waiting for us. He's got a little bit of a delay, so we're okay there. So yeah, so that is how you buy a house in Portugal. But stick to the rules. Do not think that you can do anything outside of it. Stick to the rules. And with our renovations, we are sticking very much to the footprint, because if you don't stick to the footprint and you change, you have to go through the Camara, the municipality. You've got to get an architect, you've got to get plans. They then decide whether you can do it or not. 2 years minimum, plus all the costs. We're on a budget, a very tight budget. So we made sure we picked a house where we didn't have to change too much. Sure, the roof needs redoing, but it's all within the footprint of the plans that were given to us, and we're happy with that. So all good. So that is how you look for a house in Portugal. A few other little things like the aspect was right, the direction it faces, the views it have, that it's not too hilly. I like the fact that the upstairs goes out onto the garden, and then I can walk around. I don't have to navigate stairs because I'm not particularly fond of stairs. There is a bit of a hill to get into Figueira dos Vinhos, but on a Saturday I can cycle or walk into the market, so I'll be self-sufficient. I could grow my own vegetables, but it's not going to happen. I'll probably grow herbs. And yeah, so all good. Have a wonderful day, people. If anyone's really interested, I do have a little checklist of going through all the properties. So if you're interested, drop me a note.